Hello again, everyone. I just wanted to follow up on a couple of fountain pens that I unboxed on the channel. I will put a link down below to the unboxing videos for these two. So this is the Pen BBS piston fill, and this is a Narwhal brand piston fill. So they both have their pluses and minuses. This one I especially wanted to follow up on, this Pen BBS, because when I opened it, when I unboxed it, I was having issues with the piston filler not this little bit depressing into the shaft here. So I did finally figure out how to get it to move. Apparently this is a known issue, and people seem to think that it's because the piston material is all plastic and it doesn't really have a very great piston mechanism, let's just say that. So what I ended up doing, this is filled with ink now, so I'm not going to unwind it and rewind it, but what I ended up doing is I twisted this all the way out so that so even though this wasn't going down, this was all the way out, and then I ended up having to push on it to get this part to go down. So once I pushed on it, I was able to wind it all the way down to the bottom. So, you know, for long-term pen use, I'm not sure if that will work for this one, but it worked for now, and I was able to fill it. Going up seemed to not be a problem at all. It just seemed to be going down. And I wonder too if it's because this barrel is just a little bit tapered here at the end, and it might be getting stuck where it's tapered. But anyway, the piston fill mechanism is not the best. But it is a super cheap pen, so although it's about the same price as a TWSBI. So, and TWSBI is a piston fill and really has no issues like that. So actually I should say, so it's about the same price as a TWSBI Eco, but the Eco also doesn't have any issues. So I did ink this up with Sailor Manyo Haha, so I will show you what that looks like written. And now that it's full, it seems to be working fine. I anticipate that I'll probably have the same issue because once I finally got it working, it got stuck again. So I had to do the same process of pulling it all the way out, pushing it so that this would actually be pushed down into the barrel. So I have a feeling that pretty much every time I fill it, that might be an issue, which is kind of a pain, but you know, again, it's kind of a cheap pen. But I'll show you how it writes and you can decide for yourself whether it would be worth purchasing. And then this one is the Narwhal brand pen. It's called the Schuylkill, which is named after a river in Philadelphia. And in this one, I put Vinta Peria ink. So these two are very similar, so you'll get to kind of see the differences and similarities between the two inks in these two pens. So I have a little notebook off to the side, my usual Tomoe River testing notebook. I'm going to find a new page here. Let's just go to a completely new page. And I will, let's do it this way so that we can compare them top and bottom. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see the writing. And I'm actually going to do block writing with these. Well, actually, I'll do both. I'll do block writing, and then I will do the, you know, the quick fox jumped over the lazy dog. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. I'll write that in cursive, but I'll write what the pen is in block lettering, so you can kind of see the difference, because I've noticed that because these are both heavily shading inks, they actually seem to show up a little bit better in block writing, at least for my block writing. Your mileage may vary. So let's go ahead and start with the Pen BBS. Okay, and this is a fine nib. I think it only comes in this one size, or at least it did from where I ordered it. It only came in this one size. I will post it. It seems to post just fine. It doesn't seem insecure, and it's not posting over the piston fill mechanism. And because the pen is fairly light overall, it has a pretty good balance with the cap on. My apologies. I'm going through allergy season here. I seem very stuffed up. So this is, and there's a number for this pen as well, which I don't, oh, it says 309. Here it says it on there, so I'll write that too. So this is the Pen BBS 309. So this is Pen BBS 309. Piston fill. And a fine nib. And then the ink in here is Sailor, Manyo, haha. Okay, and then I will go ahead and write a quick brown fox. Oops, we're going out of frame there. Okay, so there you go. And then I will do the same with the Narwhal pen. I'm also going to move it back this way. I'll move it slightly less askew so you can see the whole thing. And this one does not post. So in fact, it seems to be almost impossible to post without jamming it on the end, which I don't want to do. It seems to be designed to not post because it does not. If you've experienced a few fountain pens, you'll just kind of know that sometimes when you put this on the end, it fits. Like it locks in some way, not necessarily locks in, but it fits, it stays, it feels pretty solid. That's gonna fall right off. So, and like I said, unless I really jammed it on there, which I don't want to do. So I think that this pen is pretty much unpostable. That would be my opinion of this. And the nib, I think, is a medium, but again, I think it might be the only size that it came in because that was the only one available where I purchased it. Oh, and you'll also see, so let's see, I'll put it that way. So right now, as I have it slightly up, you can see it's clear here, but as I have it slightly down, the ink goes down into that little window, and you can see how much ink you have left. So that's kind of a nice little thing there, and the patterning on this pen is quite nice. It's just resin, I believe, but it's quite nice. The piston fill mechanism worked great on this one. I didn't have any issues. The cap has this little metal bit on the end, and you can see on the inside of the cap there's just a screw up in the bottom. Okay, so this is the Narwhal. Oh boy. So Schuylkill. I'm just going to say blue at this point because Schuylkill, oh my god, I'm going to butcher that if I try to spell it. Narwhal blue. And then this is, I believe, the medium nib. And then this ink is Inta Peria. Okay, and then down here, all right. So as you can probably see here with my handwriting, I still think that the block writing does a little bit better with both of these shading inks. And it's kind of nice because you can see that the Haha is definitely bluer than the Vinta Peria, which tends to be a little greener or a little more teal, I would say. But they're both very beautiful, I think. It's just really, I think, down to your personal preference. I think with both of these pens, I think they tend to write better with block writing as well. I'm not sure if that's just a function of the ink, because this is the only inks, these are the only inks that I've put in these pens. So if I put a smoother running ink in them, would it be different? I don't know. But you can definitely see that there's some very light areas in the cursive writing here. Whereas here it's a little more even. And I definitely think you get a little bit more of the shading effect within the individual letters. Okay. And I would say that both of these pens are not the smoothest pens in the world. So when I first opened the Narwhal and started writing with it, I was like, ugh, yuck. But I did warm up to it a little bit more the more I wrote with it. And it feels better when I write with it with printing as opposed to cursive. I feel like it starts to run a little dry with the cursive, and it starts to feel a little more scratchy. I don't know that the nib is necessarily scratchy. I think, I don't know if it would be more properly categorized as feedback from the nib, but anyway. The Pen BBS is also not very smooth. I would say of the two, it's probably slightly smoother with the cursive than the Narwhal pen is. They both are kind of interesting. They're both fairly inexpensive, so it's not a huge investment to go with these pens. The Narwhal, yeah, would I get it again? I don't know. Maybe just to have it in my collection, and I might write, like, again, if I have a purpose for writing block printing, I would probably use this pen because it actually has quite the, now that I'm thinking about it, this might be the fine nib. It's not labeled on the nib, although I have a I have a habit of not seeing that sometimes when it's written on the nib. I looked pretty much all over and didn't see it. I would have to go back and look at my order. It might be fine because I remember being surprised by how wide the line was when I got it. Because these are both very similar in how wide the line is, both for the printing and for the cursive. So if you're looking for a pen that's going to be super thin, like this one I know is a fine, and this one I was surprised as well by how wide the line is. So because I think this is a Chinese pen rather than a Japanese pen, and I think the Japanese have a finer nib than I guess the Chinese do. So Pen BBS, that one obviously has some issues. I would say neither of these pens is like an enthusiastic recommendation. Yes, go out and buy it. But I think they're kind of interesting to mess around with. And I certainly think, like with the Pen BBS, you could have this pen and not feel bad about throwing it in your bag. I haven't had any leaking issues yet, so I haven't heard of anyone having any leaking issues. Even I was a little concerned given the problems with the piston fill, but it seems to be fine. I really do like this kind of icy blue color that it has on the plastic here. I don't know if this is plastic or resin. I would have to look that up again too. But it's okay. Just know you might have to fiddle with it a little bit. But again, I always come back to, if you want an inexpensive pen, I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. If you want an inexpensive pen, inexpensive meaning around $30, I would still go for the TWSBI Eco. It really outperforms pretty much every cheaper pen I've tried. Now, when you get up into the higher price pens, there are definitely some that I prefer more than the TWSBIs, but TWSBI is really it's a go-to pen for being so inexpensive. The Narwhal was actually a little bit more expensive. I think this was, it was $40 some. Again, given that I'm not like crazy excited about it, I might try it with a different ink and see if I feel a little different about it. But these are, I wouldn't discourage you from getting either of these if you're interested in trying them. That's probably the long and short of it. But I just wanted to show you what they look like, compare the two inks. From a little bit further away, the two inks look a little bit more similar in color, but there's definitely some differences, and I think they both are beautiful. So the inks are definitely a recommend for me. And I don't think it's the inks that are making me have some issues with these pens. All right. Well, that's it for today. Feel free to like and or subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye.